everybody, to another episode of Adding the Impact. I am very excited. I have a beautiful friend that is joining me for a conversation today. And I was trying to think earlier on, I think we know each other over 10 years now. It's got to be
Oh,
at
I,
least.
I, I think it's closer to 20, but that's
Oh my
okay.
gosh. Oh my gosh. I was James asked me earlier on, and I'm going, okay, well, it's yes, I remember then, and I remember that, and I'm kind of going, but the years just are flying past. So it probably is closer to 20 years. Oh my goodness me. Of course, neither of us are getting any older. Or so we like to think. But I'm going to introduce you formally to my beautiful friend, Gillian Stapleton. I just want to let you know how amazing this woman is before we kind of get into our chit chat today. She's a renowned leader, public speaker, and author. Gill is the former CEO of Direct Selling Australia and is the only woman to be appointed in its 50 plus year history, which is interesting, seen as it's predominantly women. But anyhow, well done, you girl. She has led multinational global organizations and Australian based not for profits. An entrepreneur at heart, Gillian has run her own business, served on boards, and is passionate about empowering others, particularly women, to be the best they can be by finding their true passion and thriving. She definitely has an infectious personality. You'll get to know her both on stage and in the boardroom. She's goal driven. Gillian has taken many risks in life, not least that of running her first marathon at the age of, get this everybody, 49 was her first one. Since then, she has achieved 13 marathons to date. Okay, there's always another one in her, and holds the world major marathon medal. Her published memoir of Running in Circles, which we'll talk a little bit about more, retells the story of the journey and the lessons learned from each one. The ripple effect of running on her life, how that has had on her life, and how she's overcome many challenges as a result. She is an amazing, amazing woman, a wife, a mother, and I mean, one of the areas, even though we've known one for a long time, I think one of the biggest blessings I had was actually serving on the Direct Selling Australia board alongside you, Gillian, because I really got to know your heart for all things direct sales, but also just that women's empowerment. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast.
Oh, Celine, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm very excited to have a chat with you and empower women through your podcast. I'm really thrilled with what you're doing, and I think it's going to have a huge ripple effect. And good on you for doing it. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You've always been somebody who has been a champion for other women and for myself included as well, even in my career. And that's what I love around how you actually put in action, how you add impact. You're constantly cheerleading. It's not that long ago that you sent me a message going, can you just help this person out or add a little bit of value here or whatever like that. You're constantly looking at ways to be able to add impact, which is really, really cool. But tell us something that is not officially on your bio. Tell us something about you so people can kind of get to know you even more. What's the real Gillian like there?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think something that's very much foremost on my mind at the moment is I'm a couple of weeks away from celebrating my 40th wedding anniversary. And I think in this day and age, that's, and I would say, to everybody, it's, Chad, my husband has been my amazing support, but life has not been easy, and some of the risks that I've taken, he's had to jump on board, or and he took some risks too in our earlier days. So I think for me at the moment, that's very much on my mind of how amazing that I met my future husband when I was 21, and we were just relaying some stories the other night. We found some slides that we'd not seen for many years. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And a really good friend of mine said, oh, you look way better now than you did then. So I think I'm doing okay. So yeah, that's on my mind at the moment, that, I came from a very humble background, Celine, and I was, many people think it's always, often people say it's okay for you, and it wasn't okay. Many of us back in the day had to really work hard. And I remember when I first met my husband, it was the first week of my teaching career, and I was in a particularly tough council high school. And I'm like, how on earth did our relationship survive when I was in my first year of teaching? Because that was really tough. And I look at it now and I go, wow, that 40 years, you talk about 10 or 15 years have gone fast, but those 40 years have gone very fast. So
Oh,
yeah.
I can so relate. So, in case you're wondering who, Gillian is from the other side of the world, like me, and Matt. So you can kind of see the little hints of our accents in there, but the same. I was only 17 when I met Mick, and we've been together for 42 years, married for 35. But I still think that one of the best bits of advice that was actually ever given regarding our marriage, because again, like yourself and myself, we're driven. We want to be able to make an impact. And so having the right partners to be able to support us, I know for me, I just thank God every day for him, because um, really the journey that we've actually been on has been quite incredible. There's been very low lows and there've been very high highs. But the bit of advice we were given early on in our marriage was that marriage is an everyday choice. You get up every day and you choose to stay married through everything. And it transfers, that actually transfers into business as well.
Mm.
Especially with direct selling business, where we've got to be self-motivated to get up each day and do something on our business. It's a choice every day. And I love it. But I have to say, I also feel very blessed that Mick came into my life, with good partners. You can really, you can go far. You really can, can't you?
Absolutely. And, maybe another little known effect is that Chad was the one responsible for me joining a direct selling business in 1993. I'd been dithering about, and usually I'm a good decision maker, but we had a lot on our plate, two young children. He traveled a lot. I was working full time in a college lecturing, and I was looking at this direct selling business, and I'd been looking at it. I'd been reading the contract. I'd been looking at my friend doing it. And I think, bless him, Chad just said one night, will you just do it? Because I think he was sick of me talking about it. And it was just the support, the shove that I needed to start on this amazing career that spanned now, well, 31 years. So it's quite incredible, that support. And, I know for some women, they don't have that support. But the thing that direct selling does gives you is, even if you don't have that support in a partner, you have that support in the community. And that's what I love most about direct selling, is that community support, whether you have it at home or within your team or within the company or within our big community of direct selling. It is such a supportive network to empower women. And that's why it's so successful and so exciting to be involved in.
I love that you say that, actually, because it's so true. Because yes, not everybody is blessed with an incredible life partner. You just, we know the stories, and especially within our profession, we get to see it very, very regularly, because it is primarily women, and that. But even on at this recent trip that we were on, I was having some conversations with some beautiful people, and many of them have gone through massive life challenges, whether that's domestic violence, whether that is the passing of somebody really close to them. And every single one of them, bar none, have actually said about how the community we have is the thing that actually has supported them through those massive things. So yes, it might be great as a business, it might be great for the income, it might be great for the incentive trips, all of those kinds of things. But actually, the thing that is the most important, and so it's just priceless, is the community support that we have. Because I know myself as well, moving from one side of the world to the other, it's this community of direct selling was actually became my family.
Mm.
It did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And still to this day, I think I'm coming up to the anniversary of when I actually signed my first agreement to do direct selling. And Anne, who was my sponsor at the time, she now lives in the States. We both lived in a little town called Newbury in the UK, which many of your listeners will know. We've moved, both of us, to other continents, but we're still in touch. I still have a friend who signed me into this amazing business. And many of the communities that I left behind in the UK, and I've been out here now 24 years, I'm still in contact. When I go back, we all get together for a cheeky wine and a coffee or a lunch, and you go, that is amazing that all these women just want to help other women build a business and help each other, empower each other. And it is infectious. It's
It's absolutely. I was just did a training earlier on, and I was actually sharing one of my grids, my contacts, that how I still hold it from 2012 was actually on the thing, and I still know many of those people on there. And, that's the thing, like all this time later, different states and whatnot, and even sometimes different countries, and yet we have that relationship. So let's go back to the beginning of your journey. So 1993, I think is what you were saying, and when you signed your first application. What was it that, you were teaching? Obviously, you had two young children. What was it that you decided that kind of go, okay, I'm going to put something else on my plate here? Why did you join?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in following your intuition, your gut feel, and I went to what was called back in the day an opportunity meeting in Milton Keynes, and the sales director there running the actual opportunity. She talked about where you could go and what you could do, and she talked about the big picture. And
Yeah.
I've always remembered that I came home that night knowing what was possible in this business, getting to the top of the tree. Now, some people say that might scare you, that you only need to show people a little piece. But if she'd only showed me that I could earn £100 a week, I would never have joined. But there was something in me that went, wow, this is an opportunity with the support, with the people I'd met that day. There is an opportunity here to grow. And as you said, I'm very driven, very goal driven. And I don't know that that's why I joined, but I knew it was there. I always knew there was a bigger opportunity. And so for me, it's the ripple effect. If you start with the end in mind, you take one. And everything in my book is about starting with the end in mind. How do you eat an elephant? It's my big mantra in life. It's one bite at a time. And whilst I was not going to eat the elephant, I was not going to get to the top of that tree right there and then, I knew it was there.
Yeah.
And so for me, the first goal was to earn to the level of 40% and come home. And I came home the first night and I'd got money in my pocket, cash. and
Yeah.
and that's what I loved, that I could then just, it was that little bit of extra, that drive of, wow, I can go into somebody's home and I can come home at 10 o'clock at night, and it was party plan, very traditional.
Yeah.
And um, get together again, the community. I think I hadn't realized at that time how important community is. The 6 women that were in that room, Beverly was my first hostess. She's still my best mate back in the UK. We still talk about that first night of all those women that came together and that community. And my business was bringing those people together. And then I was going home and I'd got money in my pocket. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
I know. It's so interesting, isn't it? Like, I mean, when I think back to my start of my journey, it was actually, again, I was only 19 when I signed my first application. And for me, I had no clue what I was actually doing. It was actually, for me, was actually about building my confidence. I was shy introvert. And so what I love about this is that two very, very different reasons at two very, very different times. And that, so I think by us showing the picture and then showing people that they can paint themselves into whatever stage they want to be at. So it can be that, some people, all they want to see is that extra 100. But for some people, they need to know that actually this is what's possible. So it's actually, I suppose, it's allowing you to paint the picture that then allows other people to paint themselves into wherever they're going, whatever that might need to be. So for me, at the early stages, I grew my confidence around the kitchen tables of Dublin. Because again, mine was party plan too initially. And so it was like those little kitchens, we'd get around, or a lounge room. And I was just building my confidence one party at a time. It has been that, though, has been instrumental to where I sit today. So, that's the thing. And for you, those tables where you were coming home with that cash in your pocket, and that is instrumental to where you are today.
It was bite-sized pieces, and then suddenly I got my first, lady who wanted to join my business, and then that for me was the next step of just helping somebody else do what I did. And it wasn't really, you didn't do it for the money, the commission, or anything. You did it because you saw another woman's need to either earn money, get out of the house, self-confidence. And it's so true, Celine. Every single person that I think I brought into my business, if I was to draw a grid, they each had a different reason. There was no similarities. They were all different. And one woman I remember saying to me, she said, I just can't watch one more episode of EastEnders. I have got to get out of the house. Like, okay. Never heard that before. And for those who don't know, EastEnders was a Coronation Street. It was the neighbours
Yeah,
of the UK for a long time. So
it's
I
also
think
quite depressing.
it's very, very important, to listen. That's why we have two ears, to really
Totally.
understand where other people are coming from. That my journey will be very different to everybody else's journey.
Mm. You know, you've hit on something I think that's really important that we've actually forgotten a little bit in our profession. With the advent of social media, and that we can kind of try to go through our context too quickly. So it's that. Whereas I suppose when we were building old school, but I think that old school way is completely transferable into today's DMO as well when it comes with social media. But we took time to get to know the story, to get to hear what it was. Because if we're only assuming that everybody's joining for the same reason that we're joining, okay, then we are missing so many other people. So it's listening to, okay, they don't want to watch maths or whatever it is now, rather than EastEnders kind of thing. Or, you know what, for me, it was about building my confidence and helping me see that I could do that with this. Or, for you, Gillian, it was like literally kind of going in, okay, you know what, that extra money, but actually wanting to see the big picture. And that by listening and asking the questions and actually digging into the relationship a little bit more rather than just a cut and paste and hoping that somewhere the spaghetti's going to stick. That I think that the relationships were deeper, which meant I actually think that people stuck around longer. Would you kind of speak into that?
Oh, very much agree. And I'll give you an example. I'd been going for quite a while, and then I think I got a bit confident and, a bit cocky. And I remember going to presentations and talking about how amazing it was. And I was winning trips by then and going away for weekends. And it was amazing. I was loving it. Being paid to go to Europe and all these things. It was quite, phenomenal. And I remember talking one night about, oh, and you could do what I'm doing. I've only been doing this for a couple of years and I get paid to go overseas and I love it and da 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 da. And then I talked to this lady and she did join, but she said, and it took me 6 months after that to get her to join because she said, oh, I'd love to do what you do, but there's no way I can travel and there's no way I want to go overseas. I have a child with a disability and I have to be home every night. And I went, oh, Jill, what have you done?
Mm,
I've completely put on my what I was driven by, what I was loving at the time, and hadn't listened. So it was a
mm,
great reminder. And she did join because then I had to backtrack and talk to her about, well, you don't have to go on the trips and you don't have to do this. And
yeah,
she didn't drive. And I was like, how on earth are you going to run a party pound business if you don't drive? So it took me some time to get to know her and we talked about, and then she just used to do, again, doing it in a very different way. We found a solution. She hosted them at her home. She would bring the hosts into her home. She did all the work and people
yeah,
came to her because she had a child who she was unable to leave. And she built a huge business, phenomenal business, all from home, completely the
yeah.
opposite to what I was doing. But if I hadn't listened and if I hadn't taken the time to get to know her, I would have just dismissed her. She can't drive. She's got a child with a disability. Why will she ever want to do this? I would have just probably, moved on. But I
Yeah.
didn't. I spent some time with her, and she was with the company for over 10 years. It was amazing.
I love that. I love that story. Actually, it just reminded me of a defining moment I actually had. I was sitting at a conference one time. It was actually in Melbourne, and it was a VicTaz big, massive big conference. There were hundreds of. It was back in the Tupperware days, and I'm sitting there. And this lady came out on stage and she was being recognized as the top salesperson in from Victoria, Tasmania, personal sales. And it was thousands, like it was like unbelievable numbers. I'm kind of going, oh my gosh, how did she personally, not her team, her personally sell that many plastic bowls? Because when I looked at the lady with it, it was obvious that she was probably had a bit of a rough life and that as well. And she started to share her story. And she could not read or write. And she had been going to parties for years and had never been given the opportunity at all to be able to join up. And anyhow, one time the demonstrator that had been doing the rounds was not well, so somebody else stepped in. And this demonstrator, through it all, said to the lady, "Oh my gosh, you know so much about this product. Why are you not selling it?" Because she said, "You're pretty much doing my job for me." And she said to her, "I've never been asked." And she said, "I can't read or write and all that." She said, "Well, there's got to be a way around that. That there's not an issue." This is back in the day when we used to fill out our forms in handwriting and all the rest kind of thing. She says, "We can sort that out. That's not a worry." And here was this lady, you know what? Another year or two down the track, her family's life had been transformed. She literally, it just literally changed her life but I sat there and I looked and I, gosh, Celine, where have you judged? Where have you actually maybe thought that they've got too many kids, or they're too busy, or they won't want to do this, or their dream's not big enough, or whatever like that? Where have you judged that actually this model could not, might not be for them? And so, the story that you shared, and that one that just reminded me of it. It's really, really important for us to know that everybody gets to paint themselves into the picture where they want to be. We need to show them what's possible. So whether it is that extra 100, or whether it's thousands, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because what we've learned over time is that it's the ripple effect, isn't it? It's every little piece, every extra pebble we throw into the middle creates the bigger and bigger and bigger ripple in
Mm.
that. So I love that you shared that story.
I think it's really important, and I think we have to be reminded of it. You talk about it, daily. It's a choice to run our businesses. Daily, it's a choice to stay married, and daily, it's a choice not to judge, to stretch your horizons. And I think, particularly as you get older in years, you sometimes narrow your thinking, and I'm particularly challenging myself to broaden my thinking, and broaden the things I look at, I read, and the things I watch on the television, because I don't want to narrow that, because trying something new, reading something different continually stretches me and continually moves me in a forward direction. And so I'm very much aware that we do become quite judgmental in this society, and people are very judgmental about our business, and that's okay. That's their right to decide whether they like direct selling or not, but I do feel we have to be gracious. I read the great book about grace recently, of that's okay as long as we continue to develop our thinking and stretch our minds, and we stop the judging. That has a ripple effect too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, you moved from the other side of the world to this side of the world, and I know you continue to be passionate about direct sales, and continue to forge your career right up till becoming the CEO of Direct Selling Australia, which was pretty awesome. What made you do that? Because I can say that's not an easy role, because, like you say, there's a lot of judgment, oftentimes around our profession, direct sales, network marketing, and that. What made you actually step into that role to pretty much be leading the way? And you had such an impact, you really, really did, and that. But I know that it was not an easy journey. What made you say yes?
Oh, well, thank you for your comments. And it was very interesting, because originally, when I was approached about the role, and this is, I think, a really big lesson, I was approached about the role and I said no. I saw the person in the role. John was an amazing man. He was a lawyer. He'd worked for government. And I just went, no way. I'm not like that. And again, I judged the role. And then a very wise life member of the direct selling community took me aside and gave me a good talking to. And I and in the end, I went, this is my opportunity to really drive a business, the passion that I've had. You talk about moving from England to Australia. It was direct selling. It was my business that I was offered an opportunity. Well, I asked for the opportunity. The opportunity to be CEO in Australia came up in the year 2000. And my boss didn't even ask me, because he said, you have a husband and two kids. He didn't even ask me if it was of interest. And I said, well, would you pick me if I, applied? And he said, of course I would. And I said, well, why didn't you ask me? He said, because I judged and thought you would never want to move. So I was used to taking risks. But a big thing, and I saw, and when people listen to the podcast, probably by then it will have been released. You have been interviewing a great friend of mine, Keith Abraham,
Yes.
and I had this little talking to by one of our life members, and then I received totally random. Keith didn't send it to me; it was a circular sort of email, but I remember the email very clearly. Was don't try to walk in someone else's shoes; try to
Yes.
walk beside them. And that for me was a sign. I'm a great believer in signs. I love signs. All my
Yeah.
friends just roll their eyes. That was a sign. I was like, okay, I don't have to do it the way that it's been done before. I can use the wise counsel, but I can do it my way. And I was so, it's the biggest job, the biggest risk, the most fulfilling role I've ever had. But I owned it. I did it my way, and I took wise counsel from so many people.
Yes.
But it was my opportunity to really make an impact on an industry that had an impact on me for 25 years. It was my
Mm.
opportunity to give back. And it was just, it was for me the most incredible opportunity. I would say I loved every minute of it. There were some challenges, Celine, as you know, especially through the
Yes.
COVID years.
Yes,
And
totally.
if it hadn't been for COVID, I'd probably still be there. You know, if I'm honest, I was just tired. I probably should have taken a sabbatical and come back because I was exhausted after COVID. Because our industry, I was terrified through COVID that our industry may not survive. And there were many people who thought the same. But actually, we thrived.
Mm.
And it was incredible to work and promote the industry at the top level. Government, I was down in Canberra just last week and met with the minister, and he remembered my passion. He said, you're the really passionate one about direct sale. Yeah, that's me. And I'm
Love it.
known in those circles for the passion
Yeah.
because I've seen the impact
Mm.
on your life, on my life, on my kids' life, on every woman that I've touched. The impact of direct selling. Um, it's just incredible. It's just
Yeah.
incredible what it can do for people, whether they stay for 5 minutes or 5 years. And that's something that you and I did some work with one of the ministers, is that it's like a business apprenticeship. And I think
Totally.
everyone listening should understand that this is just a business, apprenticeship, entrepreneurship, protected. And even if
Mm.
people stay for 6 or 12 months, they leave having, or they should leave, and I know
Yep.
they do with your company, they leave having learned something, a skill, a technique, or something they can take on into their next career.
Mm.
That's amazing. That's
It
amazing what that
truly
does.
is, and I used to say, because I was, I was a business coach for a time, and even with I still mentor different people, whether they're heading into small business or whatever like that. I'm passionate about people being prepared to actually take the risk and do it. And I will often say to people, if they're looking at wanting to be a business, so they might be a great technician, say for example, great hairdresser, they want to set up their own business. Two very different skill sets. And people automatically think that they're going to be a great business owner because they're a great technician in
Mm.
whatever they're doing. And I will say to them, you know what, if you really want a great apprenticeship and you wanted to do it at low risk, join a direct selling company. Do it for 6 to 12 months and see if you can actually do that. Because if you can do that, then you'll be able to be successful. So it's so true. I used to say whether people came into my business kind of thing, when, especially even when I was in the field and even now, of course, whether they come in for a season, a reason, or a lifetime, they will be impacted. You will learn something. You will learn a lot about yourself and your own, limiting beliefs or success tools or whatever it might be. And you will learn about others as well. You'll learn about relationships. So it's so true. But I want to go back to, I think it's really, really important. One of the things that you said, and that advice that came from Keith's well-timed email, don't walk in someone else's shoes. And we've all made the mistakes. I remember when I became a director with Tupperware, and we took over the distributorship in Tasmania, and I was looking at all of these others that were there, and they were all of a certain mold and even a certain age. We were probably one of the youngest ones to be appointed for quite a number of years, and I tried to be that. And oh my gosh, that 6 months that I was trying to be that was the worst. I was trying to be someone else. And luckily, I had a beautiful mentor who came down to, why are you trying to be somebody else? You got this opportunity and you were offered this opportunity because of who you are. how you show up, how you do the job. So stop trying to be somebody else. And it was just such a wake up moment, because how many of us and how many of our listeners have actually stopped themselves from moving towards something, like, like Gillian nearly did, like I nearly did, and that because of the fact that we thought we had to be that model of it, we actually get to bring our true, authentic self to the table. And it is so powerful when we do that, because we unleash something pretty special. And so I love that you shared that, Julian, because it is so powerful that, and honestly, as a profession, we would be so worse off if you had not sat in that chair for those years, because you were also the person who tapped me on the shoulder to come on the board. Come on, for quite a while, might I add. Come on, and that as well. But you've done that for so many people, in whether it's board positions, whether it's going for opportunities of promotion within their companies, or whatever it might be. You've constantly tapped people on the shoulder, but also helped them to be authentically. Because there's many times where I've thought, oh, I can't be like that or whatever, and it stops. So yeah, I think we would both be saying, listen to us. We are now the wise counsel, because we're so much older now. We would say to all of you coming through, please just remember to be you. Don't try to be anybody else, because it's you that the world needs. Would you agree, Julian?
I totally agree. And I think I find it quite funny, Celine, since sort of during COVID, there was an authenticity that came through, because we showed up on Zoom for calls. We showed up on Zoom without makeup and lipstick and, all of the funny things that happened through COVID. And I look now at what they call leadership, and they say, oh, you've got to be more authentic. You've got to know your staff and your people better. And you've got to build these relationships now. And you should be concerned about other things outside of their employee status. And you go, we've always done that. I'm like, I don't understand the difference.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's authenticity, and it's about being proud of who you are, doing it your way, and surrounding yourself by, with people who inspire you. And that's what our community does. And but I think the authenticity piece is massive. It's about showing up, really listening to people, understanding their visions, inspiring them, because in inspiring them, you're inspiring yourself.
Mm.
And I love your words, and it's very gracious of you to say I've helped other people. But I get such a thrill out of seeing people thrive and succeed, and that in itself um, is not why I do it, but that sense of recognition, which again our community is it's so powerful,
Yeah.
that to see those women recognized, to see you recognized on the board, and you serve on the board, you've been there now a while, and you're really giving back to the direct selling community in such a powerful way, because you think the CEO role, but the board is definitely the one that takes they're the board of directors, and they have a massive influence on where our organization can go, and empowering others to ensure that this industry is, and I know you and I are very, very passionate about it being credible and authentic and honest, and all of those amazing values that you stand for. And so you yourself as well are putting yourself in that position of ensuring direct selling goes for another 50 years, or the association goes for another 50 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's such. I am, and we've had many, many conversations over the years, and stood in front of many ministers and whatever else that needed to be happen, and whatever conversations need to be had, because I genuinely do. There's no other profession on the planet that gets to be able to bless people, no matter where you were born, what your beliefs are, what education you had. It doesn't matter who you are. And we've seen everything from, I've got some beautiful women in our community now that are absolutely just setting it on fire, and like they are former, have not longer than probably 6 years ago, they were in jail, or had addictions, or there are women that are coming out of domestic violence situations, as well as mums who just really want more choice. They want to be able to have, and also we've got this amazing group of women that we're calling our wow women, our women of wisdom as well, who are actually really wanting to be able to have self-funded retirement, because we're in a world where nothing's guaranteed anymore, and that as well. So taking control. So I will die on the beaches, for our profession, because I just know the impact and the change, and that there's so I want to take a little pivot, because you've written a book and running in circles, and she's a runner, but it's so much more than that. Tell us, first of all, why did you decide to write a book?
Yeah, legacy, I think, and being authentic. I talked about writing a book for 10 years, and then somebody challenged me when a couple of years ago and said, again, not dissimilar to joining a direct selling business, sometimes I just need a bit of a shove. And I talked about it long enough, and somebody said, well, are you ever going to do it, or is this just a pipe dream? I went, oh, no, I'm going to do it. Oh, okay. Better do it. And it was a risk. Talk about authenticity, and I felt very vulnerable writing it, because it's quite heartfelt. It's bells and whistles. There's a lot of truths in there. A lot of things I had to talk to my family about. Are you okay if I put this in? Because it wasn't. Running has been based on my direct selling career. The two are like a marriage, really. Everything I learned through direct selling, I was able to put into practice through my running career. Driving for goals, the recognition, the support team, the community, all of it's the same. You could run a parallel between direct selling and my running career. I wanted to write it down to inspire other women to move more, particularly to move more in menopause. And my goal was to inspire somebody just to put some shoes on and move out the front door, whether it was a 1K, a 5K, whatever it was, because running had made such a difference. It got me through the tough years. It got me through COVID. It got me through raising children, teenagers. It got me through some of my, I had some really fantastic roles prior to the DSA, and some of them were challenging, and it got me through. My mental health, was so much better. My physical health was so much better. And I, again, just wanted to share that passion.
Yeah.
And I felt one way was to write a book, and then now I do some speaking gigs, and I do a lot of webinars, and this sort of inspiring, because it continues and it does inspire other women to move more, and that's the purpose of the book.
I love it. Well, we're going to put all of the contact details for Gill below in the podcast here. So make sure you check out the show notes and the ability to be able to order the book as well. So there's lots and lots of, again, this woman is just an amazing, amazing woman of wisdom, I can tell you right now. So you're going to want to be able to lean in more. Alrighty, well, as we start to wrap up our adding the impact for today, question I wanted to ask you before we get into some fun little questions as well is, what are you excited about around continuing to add the impact in this next stage of your journey? Like, what is it that we will expect to see from Jill as she goes forward to be able to continue to add the impact?
That's a great question. I think now I'm looking at where I can add impact for mature women. Where there's a lot of talk about empty nesters when your children leave home and how you cope. There's very little talk about what happens when you step down from a full-time role, and how the impact of that on your sense of self, and the loss you feel when you move from a full-time, big gig like I had.
Yeah.
And I think, there's this invisibility of women over 60 that I'm really concerned about. And so I want to add impact there. I want to ensure that women still feel purpose, that they still feel that they are visible. And so that's sort of my next goal. I'm doing that in a small way at the moment, and I'm just trying to find my path for that. But again, direct selling is that too.
Yes.
Women can start a direct selling business at 60, and many have. And so it's, again, there is a massive link still back to direct selling. That's where I'd like to see the ripple effect of, as I navigate that journey, is how I can help others do that too.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I agree with you so much. It's the very reason why we've started Women of Wisdom, is that people can feel unseen, and especially in the world that we're in. You know, you think it's all got to be social media and it's all got to be pretty and it's all got to be that. But when we get to this age, we haven't got here without scars. We haven't got here without lessons. And many Indigenous cultures actually respect and admire those of us who are actually in those older years. We've got so much to bring to the table. Whereas sometimes I think in the Western world, we can discount actually the wisdom that has been earned over those years, those raising families, and now for me, grandchildren, and all of the rest, and the business lessons, and the, you know, the falling down and getting up, and all of those things. So I'm super excited because I know, I mean, you've got wisdom to add to any age group, but I know that I feel it. We see, if we think about from a practical perspective, the largest group of growth, which is not a good word in this situation, in homelessness, is actually in women over 55, that around Australia. And that as well. And again, they're oftentimes the ones that are impacted most by debt, divorce, disease, and that as well. So there's so I can't wait to see what you actually do in that space. I really do. I'll be cheering you on right there beside you. And yeah, I'm excited to see how we can even better support your vision around that as well. So awesome.
Oh, great. I'll be tapping you up at the end of the year when I do the CEO sleep out in a car, because that's for women over 50 who,
Yeah.
as you say, they're the largest growing group of homelessness. So I've been asked by one of our members to participate in the CEO sleep out. So I have to sleep in a car overnight, which is not going to be fun. You know, it's not going to be fun at all.
Yeah.
But they do this every night. So, again, it's how can we add impact in little ways? The ripple effect of doing these things has a bigger impact.
Absolutely. Alrighty, let me ask you a few little questions here then, to kind of wrap us all up. So if you were to give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Yeah, you told me about this couple of weeks ago, and I, on some of my runs, which is when I process a lot of my stuff, I was thinking about that, and so many people ask that question, and I've been saying to so many people recently, is it's never as hard as you think it's going to be.
Mm.
You know, some of my life lessons, the big risks I've taken, think it's going to be. There is an exception: skydiving. That is as hard as you think it's going to be.
I
My
agree.
son made me jump out of the plane. I'm like, never again. So that's my caveat. But it's never as hard. You know, the challenges of, you know, running a marathon, running a business, raising a family, you think they're going to be really hard. But again, if you take them one bite at a time, one step at a time, and you surround yourself with people with advice, it's never as hard. You know, you and I have moved countries, we've moved jobs, we've moved, you know, and running a marathon for me more recently, I thought it was going to be so hard. It's not easy, but it's not that hard. And
That's
because
good.
you surround yourself with the tools and the wisdom and the learnings, and then you get on with it. So yeah, it's never as hard as it's going to be, except skydiving.
And I'm going to agree with you on that one because I've done it, but I'm not doing it again. So that's, yeah. But I love that bit of advice because I'm about to head off on a trek, and I have to say, a little bit nervous, but I'm just going to take it one step at a time, one bite at
Yeah.
a time. And that's
And
it.
it's never as hard as you think it's going to be,
I
Selena.
know,
It's
it's going
okay.
to be great. At the end of it all, I'm going to look back and I go, Gillian was right. It's never as hard as I thought. Favorite book? You know, whether it's one that you're reading now or one that you have read over time. Is there one that you kind of go back to or you really like?
I've got a
Besides your
couple. Yeah, beside my own book, of course.
yeah.
Most recently, I've been reading a book called The House That Joy Built. And it's a creative, it's by, I'm trying to think, Holly Ringfield. She wrote everybody knows Flowers of Alice Hart, Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. But it's a non-fiction book about creativity. And it's probably, in the last 4 years, the only book I've sat down with and highlighted and gone through and flicked back, and I've got pages turned out. It's about the art of creativity and what brings you joy, and that's been really important to me of late. A book I read all the time is What I Talk About When I Don't Talk About Running, because I am obsessed with running. I'm a little bit addicted. So I read every running book wherever it is. So those would be two at the moment, but it changes. I'm an avid reader. I'll be
Yeah.
reading the latest Booker Prize winner, so that will be my next one. And yeah, love it.
Yeah. No, awesome. I love that. I love that. What song do you listen to when you need to feel motivated? Have you got a playlist or anything when you're running or to be,
Oh, I've got a playlist full of amazing running songs, but they are the songs we've always heard at the beginning of every marathon. So at the beginning of a big major marathon, they'll play Chariots of Fire, and Eye of a
yeah,
Tiger. So I've got all those real like upbeat ones. Um, so there's many, many. Tina Turner is another one of my
oh,
favorites,
yes.
because that was our sort of theme tune when we were at direct selling in the UK. We had a Tina Turner lookalike come to one of our conferences, and so anything by her, because she's just so amazing, like, and such an inspiration. So I've got a lot of her,
Yep.
really good songs on
Actually,
upbeat. So
my
anything upbeat.
and yeah, when I was building my business, Tina Turner's "Simply the Best" was mine. On the
Well,
car.
that was our company theme tune. Yeah. And a
There you
funny
go.
story, because Simply the Best was, so literally before a marathon, I'll listen to Simply the Best. And then my son recently got married, and back in February.
Yeah.
And as his bride walked down the aisle, the singer started singing Simply the Best for her.
Oh, there you go.
And he had
Oh,
no idea. He'd forgotten that it was, he didn't even know, I don't think, that it was a theme tune. It was just amazing.
oh,
So,
you love
yeah.
it. I love those moments when they just happen. And it's like, gosh, where'd I come from? But thank you. And your favorite quote? Have you got a favorite quote that you come back
I don't know
to?
if it's a quote, but it is a saying that I use a lot. If it is to be, it is up to me. I don't know who
Right.
you'll know who says it, but
No, I don't know who said
I
it, but it's mine
frequently go
too.
back to that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was on my
Because I
front
think
of
I
my
can make things
diary.
happen.
Yeah, it's amazing. That was on my diary for the first 10 years of my direct selling career. Stuck on the front of it. Every year I would move it over and move it over. Even though we're part of an amazing community, we are part of an amazing profession. At the end of the day, we've got to get up, get dressed, and do the work. So, it is up to me. It's like even for running, you've got to be the one who puts one foot in front of the other, and that as well. Oh, my friend, this has been a beautiful conversation. It really has. So much wisdom in there, so many pearls that you bring to the table, and I so appreciate the fact that you're in my life, and that now you're in the life of all of the people who listen to Adding the Impact. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for coming on this journey with me today.
Oh, Celine, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to congratulate you on the impact that you are having on our amazing profession, because you are making a difference. And I know that's really important to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my friend. Take care. God bless everybody. See you on the next episode.